Welcome to Layer the Alchemist, where we discuss all things heavy metal and hard rock. On today's episode, let's discuss Anthrax, their 1993 album, Sound of White Noise. I've been revisiting albums that I just, for one reason or another, missed out on with various bands. A lot of it having to do with, I've talked about this before, like right around 89, 88, 89, I drifted away from metal for a few years. I'll try to leave a link to my years away from metal video. And honestly, with Anthrax, I had started to drift away from them right around this time with I believe it's 1988, State of Euphoria. I really loved Among the Living and the earlier stuff, but when they started to get this, and this was always sort of an element to what they did, but this whole cartoonish vibe of the band, this sort of sums it up for me. The Not Man thing, I just couldn't get into that, and the surfer shorts and all that kind of stuff. I just wasn't into it. I've never been a fan of hardcore and punk, and I always think Anthrax had that element to their sound, that sort of New York thing. So when it came to the thrash bands, I always liked Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer more than Anthrax. When we're talking about the big four, Anthrax is probably my least favorite of the big four. And so I had just drifted away from them, hadn't paid any attention to them, wasn't even aware that the band had gotten together with John Bush until years later, probably like the late 90s, when I went back and started exploring this stuff. So in the theme of my other videos, I thought it would be fun to go back and break out this album because I really don't remember anything about it. And, this is going to be a short video because I don't really like the record. And I thought about not even making a video on it because I thought, no, what's the point if I don't like the album? But I wanted to make it because I'm curious what you guys think of it and what your thoughts are. I know we have a lot of thrash fans out there. I do like John Bush in the band. I think that he brings a little bit more of a grittier vocal style than what they had going on previously. Joey Belladonna being more sort of operatic, really high pitched. John Bush has tons of vocal range, and I loved him in Armored Saint. He's got a lot of range, but it has a little bit more grit and power to his voice, and he's a little bit lower, not so histrionic, singing like way up high. So I think he makes perfect sense for this album. This is 93, grunge is starting to explode, and when you read reviews, and as I was researching this record, it mentions that this is sort of like their grunge record. And so John Bush makes sense for me, but where this album just doesn't work is it's just not very catchy. There's not enough stuff that jumps out on this album for me, whether it be choruses and melodies or riffs. I also think the production doesn't really do it a very good service. It's produced by, put my glasses on here. It's produced by Jordan and Anthrax, and the production is very strange for me. It's very the sound is very kind of smeared or something. It's hard for me to distinguish sometimes what's going on with the guitars. I listened to it on the vinyl, but I also listened to it with some headphones through streaming because I wanted to make sure I was hearing this the right way. And I had to work really hard to sort of distinguish what the guitars are doing sometimes. And you're so used to Anthrax having these really tight, focused guitars that chug and chop along, and it sort of gets lost on here. And some of that is the production, and other times it just seems like they're trying to adapt to this 90s sound. So they're, instead of playing really tight, chunky riffs, they're playing more sort of open sounding things, just sort of moving along where it just sort of makes it sort of flat. And I miss that chugging guitar sound of Anthrax. And it's not that I want them, why don't they keep doing Among the Living? I understand that they need to change and everything, especially during this time when grunge was really on the horizon and becoming very, very popular. But to me, it doesn't work. The riffs just aren't memorable enough. And I thought, maybe I just need to listen to the album a whole bunch of times. But honestly, I just couldn't draw up the energy to do that. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think of this album out there. It's, not all is lost. I do like the song Only, which I think was a single. I don't remember seeing a video for this, but I think that that's catchy. I think that that has a great chorus, and that has sort of, these sort of open style strumming thing, but it works here, and it's because it's catchy and the song is really good. Otherwise, the rest of it just kind of leaves me flat. So I think I like side 2 a little bit better than side 1. Invisible's pretty good. That one's got some kind of cool riffing in it. I do like 1,000 Points of Hate. I think that was pretty catchy, and I like the last song, This Is Not an Exit, where they slow down a bit and it's a little bit more, I don't want to say grungy, but it's slowed down a little bit and it's pretty heavy, and the riffs work a little bit better with this production. I mean, maybe that's the thing. Maybe they just should have, I don't know, tried to slow everything down a little bit. I have no idea. Just the way it stands, I really don't like the production on this. None of the songs, they're just not catchy enough. There's not enough stuff that jumps out at me and grabs me. So what do you guys think? What's your opinion? Again, I completely missed out on this record, and it's sort of interesting when you follow these bands that got established in the 80s and how they handled the 90s. So that might be a good topic for a video, like who handled the 90s best out of the classic bands. Because like a lot of people, even though I drifted away from metal 89 to like 92, 93, I was sort of out of it. I think that there's a lot of other people that kind of felt the same way. When you had so many bands doing this into thrash sound, there were so many bands doing this, and it is a formula that unless you make a change, it can start to just run stale. And some bands like Metallica, whether you like the Black Album or not, I did an In Defense of the Black Album video, they were able to survive the 90s pretty well, and they realized, I think, that form, that they had to do something. They had to change, and I guess Anthrax is feeling that here, realizing that they need to make a change, but it just doesn't work for me. So what do you guys think? What do you think of this record? Does it work for you? Were you there when this came out, or had you checked out of the band? Let me know. Let me know your thoughts on it in the comments down below. Till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.